So if you think you're ready to finally hit that stage, if you think you're ready to rock and roll, you want to get your first gig but don't know how to do so, you've come to the right place. Let's get into it. What's up, everybody? My name is Travis Mark. I am the host of the Musicians Mentor podcast and now Musicians Mentor YouTube channel. If you've been here before, welcome back. If you're new, welcome. Please do me a favor while you are here and hit that subscribe button. I truly appreciate it. In today's video, I want to talk about some basic tips and advice that you might want to implement in order to try and get your very first gig. Obviously, if you're already gigging, then this video might not apply to you, but this video is a basic how to go about getting gigs type thing for anybody who's never done it before. The very first thing I need to say before I jump into this though is think of a gig as a showcase for your product. So in this situation, your band or your act is a product. And while I am an advocate for just getting out there and starting things, as I've spoken about on some previous videos, I do want to caveat that with the better your product, the better chance you have of getting rebooked should you get the first gig. Now, if you feel you're ready and you want to start gigging, but you're not sure how to reach out to venues and clubs, here's how I personally did it, and so maybe you could get success with that. The very first thing I would do from a business side, away from the playing side, is I would write or create a simple biography on your group or your band or your act. In that, I would include simple information, names, potentially ages, although that's not necessarily important, the type of genre that you play, if you're playing just originals or covers, or a combination of both, and what people could expect from seeing you live. So hypothetically, if you believe that your band is life-changing, you could say something like, life-changing alt-rock band so-and-so, formed in whatever date and play energetic type blah, blah, blah. You know, you've got to think about the genre you're trying to sell. But the bottom line is, like I just said, you're trying to sell a product. So you might not get paid on your first few gigs. You might not get paid on your first 100 gigs. It all depends on your marketing and your business sensibilities. But take for granted that the first couple are going to be free because you're trying to get into a venue so that you can showcase that product. Please note, I'm not advocating playing for free. I do not play for free. So I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying it's a way to get into a venue, especially at the start of your career. Nonetheless, you create a biography, whether you write that yourself or you use artificial intelligence to help you do so. I would say use your brain instead, but I'm old in that way. So write the biography, and along with your biography, have some good quality pictures of what you individually and as a band look like. You don't have to hire a professional photographer for this. You can get a friend who's got a good quality phone to do it for you. Especially in the beginning, keep costs down. You're trying to build, we've said this before, and building means thinking smartly. Don't spend all the money before you potentially are even going to know how to make that money back. So fast forward a little bit, you've got your biography, you've got your pictures, you've got your live set ready. How do you take that to the next step? And that is getting into venues, whether they are clubs, community theaters, school halls, restaurants. It doesn't really matter, but what does matter is you need to think where you would do well. Make a list of those venues and then start trying to find their contact information. You can do that by visiting websites, Facebook pages, or even just word of mouth if you already have friends playing in those venues. If you don't, we'll talk about that in a second, but generally finding phone numbers and email addresses is doable thanks to Google. Once you've got that contact information, you want to start reaching out to the potential venues that you're trying to play at for your pitch. Now, your pitch is very important. You don't want to come in too strong, and you also don't want to bug people. You also don't want to seem unconfident. So you got to find a balance. I personally think it's better to phone people because you have the opportunity to talk to a human and potentially start building that relationship from day one with the point of contact that is the person you need to be talking to. I understand that not everybody likes talking to people on the phone, so email is another way to go, but they both have different approaches. If you do phone the venue, I would introduce myself, I would tell them I'm in a band and ask if I can come and drop off a biography with some pictures sometime in hopes that we might eventually play their venue. Most times people will say yes, you go do that, buy yourself a cup of coffee or buy yourself a beverage at the venue, talk with the promoter or the organizer or the talent buyer or the manager or whoever is the person you originally spoke to on the phone, and just get a vibe for each other. Explain to them what you're trying to do, let them know that you're new and that you're trying to break into the scene and you would love the opportunity to eventually play at their venue. If you do this via email, it's a similar approach. Keep it short, keep it sweet, possibly put your biography in the body of text, but have your photos in link form so that you don't clog up their email addresses. If you're going to do that, your mail won't get delivered. Likewise, a lot of people in these kind of vocations get a little irritated if you clog up their mailbox. So same kind of thing, you tell them about who you are, you introduce yourself, explain what it is you're trying to do, and ask for what you want. Hey, we want to play at this venue. Please, will you give us the opportunity? We will fill any date that you can potentially give us. If you can, of course. But then wait. If they don't give you an answer straight away, which they probably won't, be willing to wait 5 to 7 business days before you follow up. And if you don't hear back from them when you do follow up, be willing to wait another 5 to 7 business days. You don't want to seem irritating from the start. You are trying to get in there. And like I always say, this is a relationship building business. So if you can build a relationship maturely and want them to build that relationship back, you are in a much better standing with them from day one. Now let's assume that they don't get back to you. You can do this old school, and this is how I and many of my friends did it. You can actually go to those venues by supporting gigs and supporting those venues, and eventually start getting friendly with the staff, whether that means the barbacks or the doorman or the bouncer or the sound man. It's really up to you. Try them all, because you never know where opportunities may come from. I have had gigs from barbacks. I have had gigs from bouncers. True story, I promise you. I have landed up getting referrals from those people and landing up in bands or one-off gigs that have made me money. So it could be the same for you or even for your whole band. But regardless, you build the relationship, and after doing this for a few days, a few weeks, a few months, which I understand can be frustrating because you probably want it now, but be patient. You build that relationship, and eventually you can say to somebody at that venue that you're trying to get into, hey, how can I get my band a gig here? We're really good. I believe we could bring some people here. Please, who do I have to speak to? And I promise you, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get your answer. Again, I do have to go back to the beginning of this video and state that the better your product, the better. Because, being biased towards your product, especially if it's not ready, that might not be any good for anybody. So hopefully getting in touch with these venues or building the relationships in person gets you into them and gets you those gigs and gets your gig calendar rolling, etc., etc., etc. But if for some reason nobody's biting and nobody's getting back to you and you aren't able to get into these venues, something you can do, which is a bit of a punk kind of DIY ethos, but I'm big into that, is you can create your own opportunities. You can set up your own venues. And you don't need a lot to do this. If your band's already rehearsing, you probably have a PA system. So you set up your PA system and you have a house party. Invite some friends round, film some footage, make some content, add it to the bio. Always building, always improving. The 1% rule, we keep talking about it. It's the same thing, right? We're just trying to constantly improve on the product. If house parties aren't working for you or aren't your bag, you can go and set up in a local park. Sometimes you need permits, sometimes you don't. It depends what you're willing to chance. Likewise, you can potentially try and hit up schools and play their assemblies. You can hit up community centers or hire a community center and put on your own gig. Hire a couple other local bands, ones who are already playing at those venues. And then you make relationships with the bands, and when they play in the venues you couldn't get into, or even other venues you hadn't thought of, they might think to ask you to join them. There's all these different opportunities. You just have to think a little bit out the box. Nonetheless, these have all worked for me. I've found success like this, and I'm hoping that you might find the same success, but even greater success. Who knows, right? If you've got additional things to add to the comments, please do add some comments below. You never know who you can learn from. I believe we can learn from everybody, and I hope that you're enjoying this content. If you are, once again, please do hit that subscribe button. I greatly appreciate it, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.